my moral compass, if you will, my ethical underpinnings. Early on in my life, taught to me by my family, particularly my mother. And then I'm really going to talk about my two careers. I spent 25 years as a general partner of a private equity firm called Pat Haden. And just 18 months ago, I really changed careers. Really took a completely different turn and became the athletic director of USC. So I'm going to kind of mix and match, if you will, a little bit, but trying to hit the theme of leading an ethical organization here today. I was born the son of a Scottish father, a World War II veteran, and an incredible woman, Pat Haden, an Irish Catholic mother, very middle class. I was born 4th of 5 in New York. But I can still remember my mother taking me on a trip to New York City and visiting St. Patrick's Cathedral as a very young boy. That still resonates with me. My mother took me to St. Patrick's to light a candle for an ill relative. And I didn't know it at that time, but it was a seminal moment for me. I think it was because of that moment when she lit that candle for someone else, and because of my tremendous respect for my mom, that I learned at a very early age that we do not live in this world alone, and we need to love and care for those less fortunate than ourselves. She taught me really to look outward, through other people's eyes. You know, mothers of my mother's generation are remarkable people. They didn't win Nobel Prizes, write books, climb Mount Everest, or in my mother's case, even go to college. But those influential women created an environment for their children where you learned about selflessness and sacrifice and integrity and doing things right. World War II got in the way of my father's education. He wanted to be an architect, and every Christmas when I watched It's a Wonderful Life with Jimmy Stewart, and he wanted to build all those things, and the job got in the way, I think, of my father. But when he returned after World War II from the Pacific, began to sell cars in New York. In the late 50s, he moved our family to Scottsdale, Arizona. And it was there in Scottsdale, watching and learning from my mother, where a set of values were imbued in me. She provided me an ethical compass and taught me about how to lead life. She treated all with dignity and respect, and I watched and I learned. And while I learned in the simple construct of the golden rule as a boy, I believe my practice of the rule taught me not just to treat others how I wanted to be treated, but helped create a set of values by which I try to live my life. In business, we might call it an operating philosophy. As mentioned earlier, I spent 25 years, this is how I met Jim, as a partner in a private equity firm here in Los Angeles called Lewis & Haden. And my job was to thoughtfully invest our limited partners' capital. And in this business, and I would think in many of yours, there is a ferocious competitiveness to succeed. And it is here, at this crossroad, where sometimes the challenges of business and its inherent competitiveness and the balance of my beliefs and my ethics could have conflicted. I believe many young employees, Generation Next, recognize that choosing the organization to join will very often shape the person you become. Our challenge is to help them see more models of good corporate behavior, to show that there is a better way, and to continue to highlight that ethical standards are good for business and good for us. At our RLH, we invested in lots of service companies. Their assets were not machinery and equipment. And the quality of these people, their values, and how our management teams, like Jim, of these companies led the mission statement that each company had was a very, very important determinant of the success that these portfolio companies had. We'd like to really broad and deep ownership within these portfolio companies so each employee feels that they have a real say in the success of the enterprise. And it was my experience over the 25 years I worked at RLH that the best CEOs have a set of characteristics and values that create a climate of success. They're smart, they're passionate, they demand much of themselves, they attract and retain good employees, yet they have a set of guiding values. They do what they know is right, even if it's sometimes unpopular. Their integrity is never in question. They build trust through their relationships. They admit mistakes. They demand excellence that's uplifting, and they're team builders. I believe if you ask anyone who's dealt with me or my partners over the last 25 years, we would get high marks for integrity. That is really important to me and to us. I believe everyone who has worked with us knows what I and my partners at RLA stood for. We want to make an attractive return for our investors. That was our job. We will not be deceitful. Our word means something. We do what we say, and we believe in treating all with whom we deal fairly. Doesn't mean we can't be tough and we'll negotiate to get the best terms. But we all want all parties with whom we deal to feel like they won too. Most of RLH's competitors didn't have their names on the door. We do for a reason. We believe that a reputation of integrity and responsibility, of compassion and forgiveness is a business asset, not a liability. And we believe the names on the door have that reputation. And as I told my children, you spend a lifetime building a good reputation, and it can be ruined with one silly decision. Nothing is more important than our reputation. And we're not afraid of putting our name on the door because we know that while all investments may not work out, we will always attempt to be fair. Integrity, I believe, is the hallmark of our firm and how our firm has operated for over 25 years. We do what we know is right, and we act in line with our principles and beliefs. For me, most of these lessons have been brought to me through my mother in my upbringing. Sure, I've made lots of mistakes and will continue to do so, but I will take responsibility for those actions going forward. Playing for the national championship, it's not a matter of life and death, it's more important than that. Now, most people in this room would have heard, you've heard some variant of that over the years, that winning is important, more important than anything else. And it's usually accompanied by other observations such as the need to win at all costs, to be single-minded, to be focused, the need to fight to the death. That may be important in sport, where you do need to be single-minded and focused and results-oriented. But let's face it, sport is not a matter of life and death, nor, despite Duffy's observation, is it more important than that. I don't think winning is everything. Not in sport and not in business. Not if you win without principle or without honor. Not if it means acting dishonestly. Not if you have to put aside your values to win. If it's a victory, it's a hollow. And at RLH and at USC, we want to win by remaining true to our values, to the principles that guide our organizations. Anything you achieve without doing that is not a victory at all, in my estimation. My view is that when we invested in companies at RLH, and now as I hire people at USC, and we recruit dozens of student athletes each year, we invest in people. These people will be some of the most talented, best, brightest people in the country. They will be experts in their specific role. But we take that as a given. In addition, we want good people. Not just good at their jobs or their sport, but good people. We want good people who make good decisions based on a good set of values. People who are honest, focused on doing their job to the best of their ability, but don't ever forget the reason we're doing the job in the first place. Winning isn't everything, it's how you win that matters. Over the past 25 years when I worked at RLH, we've invested in about 60 companies. And as I reflected in our success and failures as I was preparing my remarks for this audience, I think it's safe for me to say that in my experience, our most successful companies have had management teams and employees imbued with a sense of values and principles and a moral compass that has created an environment for success. And as I reflect on some of the less than successful investments, they were run by people without a sense of fairness and integrity. There's actually research being done as I speak with real data points about the connection between corporate success and moral behavior. In a book entitled Moral Intelligence, Doug Lennox and Fred Keel provided many good case studies. They demonstrate some of the best performing companies have leadership with strong ethical standards and the ability to follow them. And even in a world that may reward bad behavior in the short run, one of the conclusions is that the fastest way to build a successful business enterprise is to hire people with the highest moral and ethical skills you can find. And I could not agree more with this conclusion. Let me turn my attention to this new career I started at USC a little over a year and a half ago. Some of you know I'm a proud graduate of USC. I met my wife for 35 years there. My best friends to this day were my classmates. Two of our 4 children went to school there, and I happily served on the Board of Trustees there for nearly 20 years. USC, without a doubt, is one of the finest academic institutions in the country and has an athletic heritage like none other. We've won 116 national championships in 16 different sports, have won more Olympic medals than any other university, have sent more females to the Olympics than any other university. If we were a country in and of itself, we were the 12th in all-time gold medal count. send over 30 athletes to the summer games in London. I can think of no better place for me to enjoy this part of my life, to learn and to compete. Before USC President Max Nikias offered me this position of athletic director, we spoke at length about success, what it meant to us as professionals, and how we were going to try to achieve it as Trojans. One challenge we discussed was how we will redefine success in light of the NCAA sanctions that are upon us today. We still have 2 years, after 2.5 years left of the NCAA sanctions that basically I inherited when I took as athletic director. We agreed to define our success over the near term the following ways. 1, to compete passionately, win, and do it with integrity. 2, to create a more robust culture of compliance without dampening the competitive spirit of our 21 athletic programs. 3, to not only support most of the programs, not to support the programs most of us think about, football, basketball, and baseball, but to build on all our programs, and in particular, to build on our women's athletic programs and their success. 4, to continue to drive improvement in our graduation rates and academic performance rate. 5, to find a way to allow our athletes to experience the entire university experience, not just a narrow athletic experience. And 6, to balance our budget every year and begin a significant capital building program. Let me explain these just a little bit further today. We will compete in an ethical way and with the integrity each of us attempts to lead our lives. We will not win every game, every year, in every sport, despite what I hear from on the internet from lots of folks every day. But we will create an environment where student athletes work as hard as they can to win each game, and along the way, to learn the life lessons of participation, teamwork, dedication, stick-to-itiveness that athletic competition can teach so very well. And during the remaining 2 years of our NCAA probation, we will wake up each morning with this woe-of-me attitude as a result of the NCAA sanctions. I failed if I can't create a positive and upbeat environment that cultivates success in spite of the NCAA sanctions. We will demonstrate not only the physical strength that it takes to win on the football field, baseball diamond, or basketball courts, but the strength of character that it takes to succeed against significant challenges that we face. Our football program has high expectations by all, including myself, all who follow us. We have challenges, very significant challenges over the next 3 years ahead, but we will continue to strive to meet the expectations of Trojan football fans by competing at the highest level every year. We are also intent on the improvement of our basketball program, which was really bad this year. And just being honest, ethical, really, really bad. And to the return of our baseball program to national prominence. And while football, basketball, and baseball will always have a very significant mind's eye to our athletic department, we field 18 other teams as well. And as athletic director, I have the obligation to our nearly 700 student athletes to make sure that their college experience is a full, complete, robust one, where they can compete vigorously and feel the joy and frustration that athletic competition can bring. And I welcome this obligation. We must have a culture of compliance at the beginning, middle, and end of our definition of success. We have the best, most proactive, and robust compliance department in the country, I believe. But I'm not so naive to think that we're not going to have compliance issues going forward. We will. We will. But we'll face them with honesty and determination to do better and prevent the next compliance issue. We must be vigilant 24/7 while allowing our student athletes to enjoy being 18 to 20-year-olds on a college campus. At USC, we have sensational athletes in virtually all our sports, the world's best. We are blessed to have fantastic female athletes and championship teams. Our females have won 23 national championships. And we will continue to develop and build upon their past success. I personally believe that Title IX, enacted 40 years ago in 1872, was one of the most, and it leveled the playing field between men's and women's athletics, was one of the most important pieces of athletic legislation ever. Now, it has been implemented awkwardly at times, but it has provided a great new possibilities to our female athletes. Women of my mother's generation had few of these opportunities. Women of my daughter's generation saw a whole new and inspiring world of athletic competition open to them. And I hope that we at USC play an important role in the greater progress ahead for female athletes in the years to come. I believe that as a result of women competing at our great university, their lives will be richer. Their careers will have more open doors because of the valuable lessons through a healthy dose of teamwork. And their lives, whatever road they choose to take, will be more enriched. Ultimately, it's not just our female athletes who will benefit. I believe we are all the beneficiaries of their athletic achievement. USC is a most amazing place. There's one-of-a-kind research being conducted in labs all over our campus. There is new knowledge being discovered in every department, dorm, classroom, and living space. We produce over 30 plays a year, have some of the best musicians in the world who perform on the campus regularly. We have speeches, debates, literature readings, and dozens of other opportunities to enrich our students' lives. I would like for our student athletes to have a more rich, a more complete college experience, a more real college experience. I do not believe that having winning programs and athletes interested in all a university has to offer are mutually exclusive. These should be 4 or 5 of the most wondrous years in their lives. I know that our world-class athletes must spend a lot of time training, but is it all worth it 20 years from now when they realize they spent most of their time on the right-hand side of the hyphen of the phrase student-athlete and missed the opportunity to experience so much more that was available to them? And finally, we must have fiscal responsibility and accountability. We have a large and demanding budget in challenging economic times, so we must redouble our fundraising efforts to meet the demands of our department. Student-athlete scholarships, new and improved facilities, and competitive salaries for our administrators and staff. And we must balance our budget every single year. So this is where we go from here, and how I'm trying to lead our organization to continued success. I began my remarks this morning by telling you what an influence my mother has had on me and how I tried to lead my life. Well, she was a really remarkable woman who never asked for anything more than the respect that she deserved. We learn a lot from our mothers, and as I get older, she seems even wiser. So let me end with a few quotes from my beloved mother who remain relevant to me even today in both my personal and business life, and provided me with a set of simple principles that help me each day. Now, I have 12 of them. I'm a little bit embarrassed. My mom lived to be 83 years old, and she's an incredible Irish Catholic woman. I'm sure she said more than 12 interesting things worth remembering. These are the 12 that really still resonate with me. Number 1, she always called me Patrick. Patrick, be a good listener. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use them in that proportion. She meant be a good listener. 2, remember, Patrick, that Dorothy and the Wizard of Oz was right. There is no place like home, and no home like your family. 3, family, regardless of disagreements, are bounded by love. 4, the most boring word in any language is the pronoun I. 5, faith in God is the essential truth of the universe. 6, charity for those less fortunate than ourselves. Hope, love, and loyalty are all good things to practice every day. 7, Patrick, you are not personally the center of the universe, but still a very important part of it. You want to remember? 8, people are more important than things. 9, character counts. 10, life is so much simpler when you tell the truth. 11, may you lead your life so there's a standing room only crowd at your funeral. And 12, she said, don't be shy about saying the 2 most powerful words in the English language that aren't used enough. And those 2 words are thank you. Thank you for having me here today. Thank you for the John Wooden Award, Jim, that I know I'm about to get. Is it at least in cardinal gold? Just do that for me at least. But thank you all very much. I think you want me to answer some questions and take some comments now. I want to get invited back. Yes, sir.
Good morning, Pat. Greg Williams. Do the sanctions extend to all of the different programs at USC?
Indirectly, the sanctions do extend to all 21 programs, because if we trip while we're in NCAA bridge in any of our sports, you're a repeat violator during that probationary period, and the new sanctions will be more difficult. So if you have a problem with women's tennis, as an example, you would. There are specific prohibitions as we go forward the next 2.5 years about what we can do with boosters and those kinds of things. There was really 3 sets of sanctions. One was a bowl ban, which we are through now. We are eligible to be in a bowl this upcoming year. Second is scholarship limitations. When I say that is the most difficult challenge for us ahead, we have 15 scholarships versus everybody else's 25 in football going forward. So we'll be playing with 10 scholarship athletes less the next 3 years. So we'll start with 75 versus everybody's 85. Then you get a couple guys hurt, get a couple guys transferred. What I'm worried about 3 years from now is being down to 62 guys. So there's still kind of a mix and match of these penalties, but we're just going to kind of march our way through it the best way we can. Yes, sir.
Thanks for your remarks. You mentioned something about how the Greek speech in Wall Street that was exceptional at the time is now kind of mainstream.
That was a premise of the book that I mentioned.
What do we do when the elites have that value structure? When the man in the street is looking and seeing that people losing their homes and all kinds of stuff.
I think it's on us as parents and grandparents and friends to raise our children right. Really, by the time we at USC we get our kids, they're 18 years. Most of their values have been imbued. Now we try to recruit kids with character in our athletic department. NCAA rules don't let you spend enough time with kids, quite honestly, in the recruitment process. They give you a very narrow window, so sometimes you're wrong on these kids about their ethical makeup and values. But in the athletic world in which I live now, that's the first thing. So let's do the best due diligence, best research. Let's talk to their high school counselors, talk to the parents about the kind of kids we are. Yeah, they can run fast, jump high, swim well, all those kinds of things. That's kind of a given, right? But what's the X factor that's going to make them a really interesting person on our campus, add to the milieu of the campus, and have them be great representatives of USC 20, 30, 40 years from now. Thank you. Yes?
Now, you had said that there are compliance challenges, or there might be compliance challenges in the future, and I was wondering what impedes you from creating a culture where you have 100% compliance?
Well, have you ever tried to babysit 720-year-olds?
I was talking more about the adults.
Well, there are, it's straightforward. I think I have 2 jobs, really. Football and basketball is one job, and the 19 other sports are a different job. The 19 other sports, the kids are unbelievable. You don't worry about them. 100% graduation rates. Anybody get calls at 3 o'clock in the morning. But all the revenue and all the heartache are in those 2 sports. You can have the recruit kids' character. You can have the best compliance program in the world, which I think we do at this point. But still have adults misbehaving, ages, screaming at these kids' ears. We have a basketball player I can't name coming in next year is a very good basketball player. Clearly, we can use him. Somebody was saw us play basketball. He's getting called from agents every 15 minutes. So it's those people we've got. It's hard to put up a fence around the university. It's almost we want. I mean, these are young kids that are going to have to learn from some of the mistakes. We want to provide them with the best tools to make good decisions. But oftentimes, you're right. It's the parents that get in the way, the adults that get in the way. Just like as I see in the little leagues, and screaming parents and umpires, they kind of get in the way of what sport is supposed to be about.
Pat, as an athletic director, are you concerned with uneven enforcement by the NCAA, comparing the punishment that USC received as opposed to other schools who may have committed more egregious violations?
Yes. There does not seem to be a lot of. Is there anybody from the NCAA here? Actually, this is what I tell our kids. Every kid, everything that you do, everything that I say, I assume is going to end up on the internet. Everything I say here today, every email I write, every text that I send, now that I'm on Twitter, every tweet that I send is in the public domain. So I was kidding about the NCAA. I told them they have been inconsistent in their application of their rules. When we went in, right when I got the job, we spent a lot of time basing some due diligence on past precedent. The lawyers in the room can appreciate it. and how we felt our penalties did not fit the crime vis-a-vis past president, how other universities were punished for their various crimes. They told us that past president doesn't matter in NCAA rules violations, which makes it very difficult to prove an abuse of discretion if you can't use past president. So it didn't quite make sense. So some of these decisions that have come down, some that are about to come down, will seem unfair to USC fans. Life's unfair sometimes. You know, we're beyond it. We're moving forward. We've got two and a half more years of it, and we're just going to get the best way we can and continue to try to win it the right way.
Enthusiast of sports and as a venture capitalist, and perhaps maybe with an ethical, taking an ethical look at it, can you talk a little bit about the new sports ownership of the Los Angeles Dodgers and what you think it's going to do for Los Angeles?
Well, you know, I have a great deal of respect for Magic Johnson in a lot of ways because a lot of athletes kind of wake up after their career's over and view themselves as an athlete, and they get stuck in that world, being an ex-athlete. I see it all the time. It drives me crazy. I keep telling our guys, hey, let's not talk about the 1974 USC Notre Dame game anymore. Get over it. Get on with it. Get on with your lives. Get on with your lives. Make some new memories. Magic, you know, has really had a post-basketball career that has really been fantastic. He's given back to the community. He's built businesses in low-income areas, which are really, really important. So I think he's been a really good leader for Los Angeles. I have 21 sports that I have to follow, so I really don't follow much professional sports. I don't watch more professional sports because I'm usually at one of our events. But I think with that change, just knowing Magic a little bit, knowing his past success, I think it's a good omen for all of us who love the Los Angeles Dodgers. Yes?
Beyond the possibility of obtaining a degree or remotely becoming a professional athlete, can you provide your opinion on whether or not student athletes should be compensated while they're playing?
Yes, we do. We do compensate our student athletes, but not nearly enough in my estimation. I've been fighting vigorously to pay them more. Now, that sounds like a weird word to you. In your freshman year as a student athlete, this is anywhere. These are NCAA rules, not just USC. You generally live on campus, and you get a meal plan. You don't really get any extra dollars. When your sophomore year, most student athletes on scholarship move off campus, and the university gives you a stipend based upon university rates for what it costs to, for housing, food, and such. And USC, for example, it's about $1,100 a month. I had 2 kids who at NC, I know how expensive the rent is. So our kids will share an apartment, with at least one person, maybe two, and pay anywhere between $800 and $950 a month. Okay. Now, by the way, I got to say, in the non-season we can't feed them. During the season we get to feed them 1 meal. In the non-season we can't feed them at all. So now you have that $1,100 check. You just spent $900 on rent. You get $200 for 30 days. Feed you, pay your cell phone bill, if you happen to have a car, you have gas, insurance, and all this kind of thing. And remember, these people, the university formulas are not built with a food formula for people who are 6'8", 320 pounds. And when I see it, they consume 4 times more calories than anybody else in this room does, other than should eat. And so we literally have 25–30% of our guys who are hungry by the 22nd of each month, whose parents can't send $500. Some parents can send their kid $200, $300, $400, $500 a month. A lot of kids' parents can't do that. I think that is wrong. I think that's a crime. I think that Pac-12, who just signed a $3 billion TV contract, we can't pay these guys a little bit more a month to make sure they're not hungry. It's absurd, in my estimation. Don't get me started. Now we have silly, stupid things. We are allowed in the mornings to give our student athletes, year-round, fruit, nuts, and bagels. However, we can't give peanut butter, cream cheese, or butter to put on bagels, as silly as that sounds. However, you go out and buy a $2,000 nut crushing machine, which you can put the nuts that you're allowed to buy into the nut crushing machine, create and grind peanut butter that now you can put on your bagels. It's absurd. There's a whole bunch of stupid rules like that. The point being, I think you're right. I think if we're really interested in student athlete, well, there's so much money floating around the athletic experience. And again, budgets are tight. I know Long Beach State feels the same as we do. We lose $1.5 million to $2 million in every single sport except football. $1.5 million to $2 million in every single sport. So it's not like we're really flush, but I still think we need to look after our student athletes in a much better way. Find a way for those 25 to 30% who are maybe are Pell Grant eligible, we find a way to get them more respect. And that's what we're fighting to do.
Before I ask you this question, I have to share a memory with you. First of all, I'm from Cal State Long Beach, and our basketball team did get to the tournament and lasted as long as Duke this year.
Yeah, that's a lot longer than we did. I actually saw your basketball team scrimmaged, so I went to the scrimmage. I think we scored like 16 points or something.
Well, maybe next year we can play again. But I have to get something off my chest. I've been bullied in for 50 years. I was senior class president at Pius 10th High School in 1968. And I think you were the quarterback for Bishop Lamont with John McKay. And at our homecoming game, we played you, or you played us, or played with us. I don't remember exactly the final score, but I think we scored 6 points and you were somewhere in the 80s. So thanks for the memory.
The lesson to be had here is you never schedule Bishop Lamont as your homecoming game. Sorry about that.
But more seriously, you've been talking about this, but I just wonder if all the things you've been talking about with student athletes, and fortunately I was able to go to USC myself later on, given that big-time college athletics is such a huge business, and obviously our student athletes and a star program such as your football team, they're very much aware of that, and they're all looking to become pro and so forth. Are we really kind of getting out of control with the competing values between what we want for our student athletes going to school versus the lure of the big money and even the NCAA with all the huge contracts going out there for television rights and so forth? Is there any way we could get this back into balance, or is it?
Is this a question or a filibuster?
A little bit. Go ahead, I'll shut up.
Okay. It's too late to put the genie back in the bottle, but let me say a few things. And I'm sure Long Beach City is doing great things as well. I know a number of folks in Long Beach City as well. We are trying to have that, as I said, we must be really trying to create this environment for our kids to have a real college experience, not just that athletic experience. But it's the flip side. To be the world's best athlete, if I'm going to win an Olympic diving medal in August in London, you have to be singularly focused. And that's what we have. We have the world's best athletes, best Olympic athletes, for sure. No doubt about it, it's proven. But we're trying to get them to open that aperture a little bit more. And besides that, the time you spend on diving, you have that college experience. We have great graduation rates. Now, I inherited the one you see published. We go to a bowl game next year, it'll say we graduated X percentage of our athletes. I can't, I don't know what it is right now. But our senior, just by focusing on that, our senior student athletes from last year, seniors, we had 111 of them, senior student athletes, and we have graduated, several graduated this in the 5th year, 109, I think it's 94%. We're proud of that. We can do that. We can have great graduation rates. We can have a more robust college experience. I think just by focusing on it. We have a series we call the Provost Lectures. We have 8 professors at USC who come in and lecture to our different teams. We go to them. We had a playwright come in and speak to our women's basketball team, and the women's basketball team went to the play that he's producing on our campus. We've done that with 6 or 8 professors and all these programs. Just having them realize there's more to this experience than just this core tool or field, right? But we have lost balance, I believe, but by the time they get to this, it's way too late. It's you and me. When we raise our kids and we scream at the umpires and we play club sports to the exclusion of our high school teams, and the club sports are going boom, boom, boom. There's no more playing 3 or 4 sports and learning, I think, some of the lessons. It's all about building a resume to get to an Ivy League school. that's my perception of what happens before we get kids. I mean, I went through that with my own kids. I had one daughter, one college sport. We never did the club thing because I just didn't feel comfortable in that era. So you can say, hey, let's change it at SC. I'd love to. Can't put the genie back in the bottle. I think it's too late. I think by the time we get to us, I think if we want to change it, we can. But it starts much earlier than that.
A question I have is, coming from your previous endeavor, and you spoke to your ethical guidelines that you had for yourself there, and moving into your new position, how did you resolve the issue or the perception that the public had regarding the fact that your most visible senior manager in your new position had perhaps a less than stellar ethical record?
You're dancing around, you mean Lane Kiffin?
That would be so.
Yeah. I can take it. Go ahead and say his name.
Yeah, but I can't.
You know, I didn't hire Lane Kiffin. I knew Lane Kiffin a little bit from his prior stay at USC, but not well. I've been him 3 or 4 times talking for probably 10, 20 minutes. And so I can't say I really knew him. But after working with him for a year and a half, I really think he has, it's one of those perception issues that he's never going to overcome. Okay? People, he does not get the benefit of the doubt. The first thing that goes in your mind that he is unethical. He's not been convicted of any NCAA violations. Okay, he's been hired by 3 major organizations: the University of Tennessee, the Oakland Raiders, and USC, who all did their own due diligence on him. My personal experience with Lane over the last year and a half, he wants to do everything right, and he is doing everything right. Now, he's prevented me from breaking the rules a few times, unknowingly. With some of these crazy rules, I have no idea. You know, I went to hand to recruit a bottle of water. Can't do that. But you can't take that bottle of water, put it in the cup, and you fit it. So, but I think his reputation. I'm not sure he's ever going to expunge that from people's memories. But my personal experience with him, and he knows the only way he gets fired is by intentionally breaking the rules. Now you're going to have some secondary violations. You're going to have butt dials and all those kind of things that happen around all these campuses. We had 7 of them last month. And so, those kind of things. But I think the intent there, we are in simpatico about how we're going to try to do this thing. And I made that very, very clear, and he's embraced it. I think Lane Kiffin, he's a young guy. I think he had a chance to have a really good run. The next 3 years are going to be tough for us. We should have a good team this year, but who knows? So, I think as you get, he's there longer, really more. He's pretty reserved in public. He's very loquacious, has a great sense of humor, really a good guy. And man, does he work hard. I think he has a chance to be a really, really good coach and one that wins the right way.
Pat.
Mr. Haden, thank you for speaking this morning. In light of the you mentioned the kind of people that you hire, how do you measure who's a good person, and not just good at their job or even at their sport? How do you define who's a good person?
Well, I mean, in the old days when we were doing our due diligence on people like Jim Easton, operating guys who were doing operating companies, we would talk to a lot of people. We would talk to the vendors. About the janitor. It's a CEO teach. Treat the janitor with dignity and respect. It's one of those things that kind of gives you a feeling about them. So we would talk to dozens of people about the people about whom we were going to hire. We were wrong sometimes. You can be fooled. In athletics with student athletes, as I said a little bit earlier, it's more difficult because it's time frames that you get to know kids you're recruiting. In football, you get a very short window, and it's hard to really get to know them. That's harder. As I, hire people, what I'm looking to do is hire a lot more people outside of USC. I think one of the things we did is treat insular the people we hire. I mean, it's nice to hire Trojans, but you get the same perspective. So what we're trying to do is hire people from outside the organization when we're hiring people. And again, I just do a lot of due diligence, talking to people who know them. And usually, it's not necessarily just their direct reports. It's people that work side by side with them. It could be secretaries, it could be janitors, it could be anybody. So I just want to know how well they treat other people. Do they treat them, as I said, like my mother did, with the dignity and respect they deserve as a human being? That's one way. Are they highly motivated? Are they passionate about what they do? Are they smart? Do they demand as much of themselves as they do of others? All those kind of ingredients I was talking about earlier. Those are all indicia to me of successful people.
I was 10th. I was also there in 1968 when you and your friend Mr. McKay.
Do you guys both play defense?
No.
I can see why we scored 68 points, 80 points.
This was more to Long Beach. You administered the shellacking to St. Anthony also that year when we were in the Angeles League.
We had to play somebody.
There you go. But my question is this. Talking about the subject of today's meeting, the Coliseum Commission has had some problems, and we've read about it in the Times, and I just wanted to know, how are these current matters affecting your efforts to get a long-term lease?
Well, one thing is, you learn, right? Whatever they did, we're not going to do. Don't do that. That's the first lesson, right? We are in negotiations with the city and the state. It's a very complex group, as you may know, is tri-party ownership of it. So I believe at some point in the not too distant future, we will reach an agreement with these entities and have a long-term lease, 100-year lease with the Coliseum. And then for those of you who are USC fans who come to the Coliseum, we're going to give you more of what you deserve. I mean, it's a dump. That's what it is. You know, to be perfectly honest. Still buy your season tickets.
Morning, Pat. Tom Fagan, UCLA alumnus.
Wait a minute. That's an oxymoron. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, I'd like to know your opinion about this trend of the mega conferences where teams like Boise State are going to become part of the Big East, and the obvious implications.
Magellan would be ashamed, wouldn't he?
Yeah. And the obvious implications for budgets. I mean, as an administrator, that has to be a concern for you.
I hate to say it, it's all about the money. And that's why we're the Pac-12. You can't have a championship game without having 12 teams by NCAA legislation. And if you don't have a championship game, you don't get a new TV contract. If you don't get a TV contract, I can't fund women's tennis, I can't fund baseball, you can't fund anything. I told you we lose $1.5 million. It's really a paradox. Bad business model, big time economic sense. Terrible. Ergo, all the pressure on the football coach, the propensity to cheat, because you have to, I mean, they don't have to do, some of them feel they have to be successful. I mean, it's kind of chasing your tail on these things. But to answer your direct question, I think we're not finished with this. I think, I don't know when it's going to be, probably within a decade. I think you'll see even greater super conferences, with the really elite teams, and you'll have haves and have-nots. So I don't think we're finished with it, but it's, if we were going to, and we do, we relish our female programming, which I said, but if you add up all our ticket sales in our 19 sports other than football and basketball, we get revenue of $225,000 in ticket sales, 19 sports. So if we're going to fund those sports, we've got to find ways of generating the revenue to be able to have these kind of sports and watch these athletes enjoy their experience, provide that opportunity for them. So that's the answer. It's about money. It's plain and simple. Anybody says it differently, it's basically finessing. This is the guy who started the applause for me. I appreciate that. Let's hear it from him.
Anytime, Pat, you deserve it. I attended the University of Oklahoma, graduated at the University of Oklahoma.
Is that still the university? I thought that was junior college.
And my son played some football at Texas and Kansas. And actually, I was going to follow up what this gentleman was saying. And I realized that it's about money. But I was very disturbed this year at the example that the presidents of universities, not all of them, were giving to young people. We were talking about greed before. And in this age of realignment, no respect for loyalty, tradition, things like that, we realized that
I think Texas and Texas A&M aren't going to play anymore. No, I mean really, it's
yes,
it's almost unthinkable.
Yes. So what I was saying was, we know that there's dollar concerns and that there's budgets, But in some way, and I know you were talking about starting it as parents and starting it when the children are younger, but universities, I think, have some obligation to conduct themselves with some dignity and do it in a way that sort of instructs our young people how to conduct themselves. So I'm a great fan of college sports. I wish the NCAA would make more sense, and I wish that the presidents and the athletic directors would act with more dignity in the way they conduct themselves. And may I conclude by saying, when USC needed to protect its reputation, it went out and it concentrated on the quality of an individual. May I congratulate them on selecting you as their athletic director.
Good morning, good morning. I have to say I am a product of the athletic programs. I'm a student athlete, and I like to attribute a lot of my leadership skills to what I learned through my experiences as a player, a captain, a coach. And I've been involved with collegiate sports in the NC2A probably for about 25 years. And
where might I ask?
Pardon me?
Where might I ask?
I hate to announce it, but I'm an umpire for an intercollegiate program, so we really get to see both sides. We don't pick a school, but we certainly hear all about it.
Yeah, I bet you do. You recognize that voice?
So it's and with listening to you speak to having 2 programs and then 19 other programs in trying to master ethical leadership, and we have the pressures of money, and you speak to the revenues of those 19 other programs still not being a drop in the bucket compared to the big programs. How do you do the right thing for the right reasons as far as explaining to those other 19 programs why they may not get as much attention as the biggies, or how do you make them feel equally important?
It's a great question. In my mind, and to me, they get as much attention. In our athletic department, that women's soccer player, that volleyball player is just, and I say this seriously, just as important to me as that Mark-Derrick quarterback. And I think if you ask our kids, so I think it's a toe at the top. I had a daughter who played collegiate athletics. I see what it's done for her, how it's empowered her life as well, and as it has for you. It's not, the revenue is, I think it's a little different. You ask a question, I think that's really hit on what the point I was making. I was saying, the revenue sports are over here. Just because we don't make money in women's soccer does not mean it's not important to us, and that we don't relish our female soccer players as an example and support them every way we can. They have a robust budget. They can travel. They have a great non-conference travel schedule. We've got great facilities. A new building we're just putting up now will house all 21 of our sports, not just football. So some of it is kind of, I think the USC is a football school. Yeah, we do okay with football. It funds a lot of our programs. But to me, every student athlete, every 701 is really important to me. And we try to communicate that to them every single day.
And secondary to it is that I've been in women's athletics through the immersion or implementation of Title IX, and I wanted to speak to some of the reluctance of USC and other organizations to bring on new varsity programs. I've watched.
Are you talking about softball?
No.
No. So I usually get that every day.
But I'm a little more obscure in my sport. I'm grateful that this year.
Fencing? Come on, give me the sport.
Women's lacrosse program is now Division I.
Women's lacrosse.
And, pardon me?
We just brought women's lacrosse.
That's correct, but I've been working with that program for 20 years.
The club team.
Trying to get to varsity, and how do the emerging sports feel that equity as they come up and say, hey, we want to be recognized. I know that it's hard, and all the organizations face that because of some of the financial limitations.
We'll lose $2 million a year in lacrosse. Okay, so how do I fund it? But we are going to. We have 12 women's sports, 9 men's sports. Title IX will not, we'd like to start in men's lacrosse, but we can't. Numbers won't work for us. We started 2 new sports this past year, both female sports, women's sand volleyball and lacrosse. And as I said, in this 40th celebration of Title IX, we relish what our female athletes have done. 23 national championships. I said we sent more kids, more females to the Olympics than any other university in the world. And we want to continue to empower those. Now, we can't infinitely bring on new sports. We can't bring on women's softball. I get asked about it all the time. There's only so many things we can do. But right now, I think we're in a pretty good spot where we brought an emerging sport of lacrosse and the emerging NCAA sport of St.
Can you weigh in on Division I football playoff versus the current BCS, your opinion, and whether we'll ever see it or not?
Well, in a way, I think we have a playoff in college football. Any week you lose, you're kind of out of the national championship race. I think every game, no, I think every game's a playoff game. I believe every game's a playoff game. Occasionally, you can win a national championship with one loss. Very occasionally with 2 losses. So, in a way, we have that. Change is coming. The BCS goes through, I think, the 2014 season. I'm on actually an advisory panel about the BCS. I think there will be, because the presidents want it, and the NCAA president has announced that he's supportive of it, a different playoff system. But there is no perfect system. I was lucky enough to play on 2 national championship teams. It was voted by sports writers. There's a lot of people who disagree with those writers, I'm sure. If you have a 14 playoff, the team that's ranked 5th is going to complain that they should be ranked 4th. There's just no way of really doing it. Should they all be just division champions to be in the playoffs so that you wouldn't have LSU and Alabama playing in a national championship game? Perhaps the 2 best teams last year, but Alabama didn't win their conference championship. So I think there's a move afoot. I think we will have something after 2014. It's clear, though, we can't play too many games. Right now, we play 12 regular season games, now a conference championship game, and a bowl game. That's 14 games. Now, if you have a playoff, you get to at least a 15th game under probably the most prominent model, +1. And, after that, you're just asking too much of these kids, I think. If we're going to go that way, I'd play 1 less regular season game if you could. Play 11, 8, 10. But I think we'll have something, a new playoff system, but not everybody's going to like it, I promise you. Can't.